My mother locked me in a soundproof closet and poisoned me into silence, then blamed what she did on mental health. I exposed her, got her convicted, and moved on. She just reached out after 5 years. Growing up, my mom had misophonia. For those who don't know, it's where you genuinely just cannot stand any loud sounds. And, in my mom's case, they made her sewers lidle. My first memory is when I was 6 years old, and my mom stuffed a dirty dish towel in my mouth because, in her defense, I was crying my eyes out after a simple fall. If I ever snored too loudly, she would play a very loud sound horn in my room until I woke up. This was to negatively reinforce my bad behavior, so that I would have an easier time not doing it, so I ought to thank her. And on my 9th birthday, she got me a gift. It was a homemade report card, with rows that were completely empty. She called it the Quiet Points system. Suddenly, everything clicked, because for the weeks leading up to this moment, she had labeled all the food in the kitchen with a sticky note that had a number on it. Bread was 2 points, while all the meat was at least 10 points or higher. You earned points through being quiet, and the times I found it hardest were the ones that earned more. For example, being quiet while I showered was only 3 points, while not snoring was given 8. She could never take points away for no reason, but I would have to spend it on food, meaning I'd always have to do something to earn it. And at the time, I was just a 9-year-old with big brown eyes filled with light, and a heart that loved her mommy. So I just shrugged and wrapped my arms around her, not saying a word so as to not trigger her misophonia. Plus, I was used to being quiet anyway, so I didn't think this would change anything. The next morning when I woke up, I followed my usual routine. Slowly drew back the curtains, waited until I arrived at the school bathrooms to get changed out of my pajamas, all whilst having an overly grimaced face, all in the name of keeping the house quiet. And apparently this pleased my mom a lot, because when I got home from school, she handed me the report card she had gotten me for my birthday. In big bold lettering it said 30 points, followed by multiple smiley faces and hearts. And before I could say anything, she opened the fridge and showed me the selection I had to pick from for dinner. I could pretty much afford everything except my favorite ice cream, so I chose my favorite, steak. And we enjoyed it together like any other healthy family. Lol JK. She made the steak extremely overcooked, so I couldn't swallow it without chewing super hard. And as a misophonic person, mouth sounds are deadly to my mother. I tried to chew extremely slowly, producing as much saliva as possible to help break down the meat. After 5 minutes of painfully slow chewing one piece, I couldn't take it anymore. I discreetly spit it out into a tissue, deciding I would eat nothing that day. But she still wasn't happy. "What the F are you doing?" my mom yelled. "A cow died for you today. The least you can do is eat it all. Put it back in your mouth, now." My tiny fingers immediately unraveled the white tissue and shoved it back into my mouth. On the way in, I had my mouth open and my tongue smacked against the roof of my mouth. I immediately went completely still, hoping she wouldn't notice. But I was too late. The room was silent as she banged both her fists against the flowery tablecloth. "You disgraceful beach!" she yelled at the top of her lungs. She grabbed the report card back from me and burned it on the stove. "You think I can't make you suffer the same way you make me suffer? Think again." I was already in a lot of fear, but that's when she grabbed my hands and shoved them towards the stove. "The burning pain you feel is only 20% of how I feel when you make noise. Remember that." Luckily, she never actually put my hand in the fire, and I didn't burst into tears. Heck, it didn't even make me cry. Not because I didn't feel upset, I did. And not because I didn't want to, I absolutely did. But because I didn't want my mom to punish me for making noise while crying. So I quietly tiptoed to bed, and ended up having oxygen for dinner, and breakfast, and lunch, and dinner again. You see, that one moment had made me go into the minus zone on my meal points. So I had nothing to buy my meals with. But my mom was a good person. She wasn't like other abusive parents that keep you healthy enough so as to not raise alarm bells. So after 3 days of pure starvation, I fainted in school. It was only for 20 seconds, but everyone was really worried, especially since the first thing I said when I woke up was, "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to fall so loudly, please don't starve me anymore." Lol. The guidance counselor pulled me into her room and handed me a Hershey's milk chocolate bar, a banana, and a Kind bar. I chewed them so quickly I was gagging. When I was done, I looked back up at her and her eyes were filled with tears, while her face went ghost white. She didn't even ask or say anything, just told me they were calling CPS. The guidance counselor's hands shook as she reached for her phone. I watched her dial the numbers, each beep making my stomach twist tighter. She kept glancing at me between pressing buttons, like she was checking I wouldn't disappear. "Yes, this is Mrs. Henderson at Oakwood Elementary. I need to report a case of suspected child abuse and neglect." Her voice cracked on the last word. She gave them our address, my name, my mother's name. Each detail felt like another nail in a coffin I couldn't identify yet. While she talked, I sat completely still. My body had learned that stillness meant safety, that movement created sound, and sound created pain. Even with my stomach finally full, the habit remained. I counted my breath silently, making sure each inhale and exhale made no noise. Mrs. Henderson hung up and turned back to me. "Sweetie, some people are going to come talk to you. They just want to make sure you're safe." She pulled her chair closer, and the scraping sound made me flinch. "Can you tell me more about what's been happening at home?" I opened my mouth, then closed it. The words felt too loud before I even spoke them. But Mrs. Henderson waited, her face patient and kind in a way that made my chest hurt. "My mom has misophonia," I whispered, so quietly she had to lean forward. "Sounds make her want to hurt herself, so I have to be quiet." "And the food? Tell me about not being able to eat." I explained the point system, how I earned quiet points for not making sounds, how each food cost points, how I'd gone negative after making a mouth sound while eating. Mrs. Henderson's face got paler with each detail. She made me put the chewed up meat back in my mouth from the tissue, I added, the memory making my stomach turn. Then she held my hands near the stove. She said the burning was only 20% of how sounds made her feel. Mrs. Henderson wrote everything down, her pen moving fast passed across the paper. How long has this been happening? The point system started on my birthday, but the being quiet. I tried to think back. Always. She put a dish towel in my mouth when I was 6 because I cried after falling, and she uses a sound horn when I snore. The door opened and Principal Morrison walked in with 2 people I didn't recognize. A woman with short gray hair and kind eyes, and a younger man with a clipboard. "This is Ms. Rodriguez from Child Protective Services," Principal Morrison said, "and Mr. James, her colleague. They're here to help." Ms. Rodriguez sat down across from me. "Hi there. I know this might be scary, but we're here to make sure you're safe. Can you tell me what happened today?" I repeated the story, each telling making it feel more real and more terrifying. They asked questions about bruises. I didn't have any visible ones. About how often I ate, depending on my points. About whether anyone else knew. No one. "We're going to need to go to your house," Ms. Rodriguez said gently, "to talk to your mom and see your living situation. But first, I think the nurse should check you over. Make sure you're physically okay." The walk to the nurse's office felt endless. Other kids were in class, their muffled voices coming through doorways. Normal kids who could laugh and talk and eat without earning it. Nurse Patricia weighed me first. 72 pounds, she said, frowning. "That's quite underweight for your age and height." She checked my blood pressure, looked in my eyes and throat, listened to my heart. Each test required me to move or breathe in ways that made sound, and I kept apologizing. "Honey, you don't need to apologize for breathing," she said, but I couldn't stop. She documented everything while Ms. Rodriguez watched. The way my ribs showed, the dark circles under my eyes, how I flinched at every sound I made. "When did you last eat before today?" Nurse Patricia asked. 3 days ago. I had steak, but I couldn't chew it quietly enough. She exchanged looks with Ms. Rodriguez. "We need to take her to the hospital for a full evaluation." "No!" The word burst out louder than I'd spoken in months. "My mom will know. She'll know I made noise that I told. I couldn't finish. "Your mom is going to be contacted regardless," Ms. Rodriguez said, "but you won't be going home until we've investigated. You're safe now." But I didn't feel safe. I felt exposed, like I'd broken every rule that kept me alive. My breathing got faster, louder, and I couldn't make it stop. The panic made more noise, gasping, wheezing, my heart pounding so hard I was sure everyone could hear it. Nurse Patricia grabbed a paper bag. "Breathe into this. It's okay to make noise. You're safe." The principal's phone rang. "Yes, Mrs. Chen is here. I see. Yes, I'll let them know." He hung up. "Your mother just arrived. She's demanding to take you home." My whole body went rigid. Ms. Rodriguez noticed. "She can't take you anywhere right now. We have a legal hold while we investigate." They moved me to a small conference room away from the main office. I could hear my mother's voice getting closer, using her fake nice tone she saved for other adults. "I'm sure this is all a misunderstanding. My daughter has such an active imagination. You know how children can be. Mrs. Chen, I'm Ms. Rodriguez from CPS. We need to speak with you about some concerns that have been raised." "Concerns? This is ridiculous. My daughter has some behavioral issues we're working through. She's in therapy for attention-seeking behavior." I wanted to scream that it wasn't true, but years of training kept me silent. Through the door, I heard my mother explain her condition, how hard it was to live with misophonia, how she did her best despite her disability. "We'll need to visit your home," Ms. Rodriguez said, "and speak with your daughter's therapist." "Of course. You'll see everything is fine. In fact, I just went grocery shopping yesterday. The fridge is fully stocked." My heart sank. She'd prepared. Somehow she'd known this was coming and prepared. Mr. James stayed with me while Ms. Rodriguez and another CPS worker went with my mother. Principal Morrison sat with us too, offering me water that I was too scared to drink because swallowing made noise. "The therapist she mentioned," I whispered to Mr. James. "I've never been to therapy." He made a note. "We'll verify everything she tells us." Hours passed. I dozed off in the chair, exhausted from the stress and the first full meal I'd had in days. When I woke, Ms. Rodriguez was back, her face carefully neutral. "We visited your home," she said. "Your mother showed us a fully stocked kitchen, your clean bedroom. Everything appeared normal." My chest tightened. "The point system chart? We didn't see anything like that. Your mother said she uses a standard behavior chart for chores." No, it was on the fridge, with all the sticky notes on the food, but even as I said it, I knew she'd removed everything. "We'll keep investigating," Ms. Rodriguez assured me, "but for tonight, since we can't find immediate evidence of physical abuse or neglect, you'll need to go home. However, we'll be doing follow-up visits and interviews." The room spun. They were sending me back. Principal Morrison protested. The child fainted from starvation. The nurse documented her being severely underweight. Her mother showed us medical records indicating an eating disorder. Said she's been trying to get her daughter help, but she refuses to eat. "That's not true!" But my voice was so quiet from years of practice that it barely carried. Ms. Rodriguez knelt beside me. "I believe something is wrong here, but legally, without evidence, I can't remove you from your home yet. Here's my card. Call me if anything happens. We'll be back tomorrow for a follow-up." The drive home with my mother was silent. Not the comfortable quiet of two people at peace, but the terrifying silence before a storm. She didn't speak until we pulled into our driveway. "You've made things very difficult," she said, her voice deadly calm. "But don't worry. I have a solution." Inside, I saw what she meant. The kitchen looked normal, full of food, no point system, no sticky notes. But in my room sat a pair of noise-canceling headphones and a white noise machine. "Your new therapist recommended these," she said, though I knew there was no therapist. "You'll wear them whenever you're home except for meals. Doctor's orders for your sensory processing disorder." She put them on my head and turned on the white noise. The world disappeared into a rushing sound like ocean waves. I couldn't hear her footsteps, couldn't hear if she was approaching, couldn't hear anything but the endless white static. I pulled them off. "I can't put them back on!" Her scream made me comply instantly. She held up a piece of paper. "Doctor's note. If you don't follow treatment, it's medical non-compliance. That would look very bad for your little CPS friends." The headphones went back on. The white noise filled my world. I watched her mouth move but heard nothing. She pointed to my desk where homework waited, then left. I sat at my desk, the white noise drowning everything. When I tried to remove them to use the bathroom, she